Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. And in this video, we have with us Neha Chaudhary. She is a 99 plus percentiler in CAT 2020 and has cracked a lot of B school exams in the past year. And this has been a much awaited video on my channel. And I have accumulated a lot of questions which you had sent to me as well as which you had sent to Neha. And finally, we'll be addressing all these questions in this video regarding the CAT as well as the MBA preparation, right from CAT prep to the interview prep. And I hope this video is helpful. Please hit the like button, and without further ado, let's get started. So to begin with, Neha, why don't you introduce yourself? So how are you doing? How is IIM Indore?
Oh, I am Indore. Like I've recently joined, and the induction program is going on. So it's very enjoyable and something I'm really looking forward to.
First of all, congrats on behalf of the entire family of my YouTube channel. And to just give a brief introduction about Neha, so she has cracked all the B school exams in India. She scored a 99.37 percentile on the CAT. She scored 264 marks in the NMAT exam. She scored 99.49 percentile in SNAP, 96 percentile in SAT, and she had calls from IIM Calcutta, Lucknow, Kozhikode, Indore, SP Jain, MDI, FMS, XLRI, NMIMS, Symbiosis, to name a few. And finally, as you know, she has joined IIM Indore. So let's start with the questions. And so are you ready, Neha?
Yes, definitely.
This is a very commonly asked question. I think you might have also thought about it. So is the CAT really difficult an exam? This is the first question which I have received.
Okay, so CAT is a competitive exam, but it's not really difficult if one is prepared well. So the exam syllabus is majorly built around the concepts which we have learned during school in our 8th, 9th, 10th grades. So, since this is an exam for the management aspirants, the basic purpose of this exam is to test the skills that any manager will need in the future. So these skills like comprehension, quantitative ability, logical reasoning, decision making, time management, these are the skills that they are testing. So if you understand where you have to apply which of these skills, it is very easy to crack the exam. And you have to prepare well based on the understanding of where to apply which skill basically.
Yeah, that's true. So basically, it's testing you for the skills which are required from managers. And also, my personal opinion is that what makes the CAT difficult is the competition. Because other exams like GRE and GMAT, you're competing with yourself, whereas in CAT, you're competing with 2 lakh students, which is a very targeted pool of very talented students. So I think these factors make it difficult. So that was a really great answer to begin with. So a second question is, which is also a very commonly asked question, whether students should go for self coaching or is self study sufficient? So what did you prefer, and how did it definitely turned out to be great? So what's your take on that, coaching versus self study?
So yeah, this is a question that every aspirant will come across when they start like preparing for the exam and start thinking if they want to give this exam or not. So even I went through this when I was beginning with my preparation, and both of the options definitely have their own pros and cons. See, with coaching, you get all the material, structured material. You get a proper preparation schedule. It helps you be consistent, and it also gives you some doubt solving sessions to clear your doubts from the faculty. So, for I think that coaching is basically more helpful for those who don't have the time to structure their preparation themselves. So
True.
it is great for those who are either doing a full-time job or some internships, or those who have a very hectic schedule in college. The drawback with coaching is that you're not able to really pace yourself. So if you want to spend some more time on some particular topic, or you want to go fast, or you want to skip some topic altogether, that is something you're not able to do with coaching. So that is the drawback that you have to like understand. So why I went with self study was because I prefer like pace. I want to watch the videos fast. So if I had joined coaching, I wouldn't have been able to really do that if the sessions were live sessions.
Mhm.
And also uh, self study requires a lot of it requires consistency, it requires discipline and a lot of motivation.
True.
So it's difficult to find the exact material because there is so much material online. So you have to give some extra time in that. So if you have that time, if you have that discipline, and if you have that motivation to do all of this yourself, you can definitely go for self preparation. There is no lack of material, freely available material.
True, true. That was a really comprehensive answer. You covered all the sides of the story. So to just add to what she said, we have a good combination because she prepared using self study, whereas I had joined a coaching. So as she said, I was doing a full time internship at that time, and I wasn't getting sufficient time to devote for CAT prep. So I thought that coaching was the best option for me because at least I would study at least 2 hours per day. I would attend the classes. Otherwise, taking out time after your internship is really difficult. So you should check what works for you. To begin with, you can try if self-study is working for you. If not, then definitely you can go for coaching. And as you mentioned, what are the some of the good materials that CAT aspirants can use? Because that is also a commonly asked question as to which books should one refer to.
If you're joining coaching, I think they give like the exact material that you require, and you shouldn't ideally stay away from that because they have prepared all the material with a lot of effort and they have the expertise. So you should stick to that. And if at all you feel that you have more time, then you can go for past year CAT papers or previous year mocks for practicing. For those who are preparing by themselves, there are a lot of free resources. So what I used for clearing my concepts, so the concept videos basically were from YouTube and Unacademy special classes. So for quant practice, I did use Arun Sharma book. In that, I went through that book 3 to 4 times, solved it in multiple iterations at different stages of my preparation,
Mhm.
starting from concepts to practice to going to efficient solving methods. So that is how I went about it. I also used previous year mocks for quant practice. For DILR, I used to solve the practice questions that were from the Academy special classes mostly.
Mhm.
They had a good combination of various topics and various difficulty levels,
Mhm.
and also from previous year mocks. For VARC, I used previous year CAT papers and previous year mocks majorly for practice. And the material available is endless, so it's crucial that you be choosy and stick to the material
Right,
that you have chosen and avoid any FOMO that
right.
has been going on a lot recently.
Yeah, that's true. Like one important point which you mentioned is choosing a material and sticking to it. Because initially, what happens is that we hop from one material to another and we just cover a single chapter from each materials. So don't do that. That's a commonly committed mistake, and I was definitely guilty of doing it. So that was a really great answer. And one more question is, when should we start preparation? And what is the ideal time to start your preparation for CAT? And when did you start your preparation?
I would say there's no ideal time. See, there are people who score a 99 plus percentile in 2 months. There are others who take a year to score that same score.
True.
So there are many factors based on which you have to decide when you want to start your preparation. Saying that you have to understand how strong your foundation is. You have to understand how much time you can dedicate to preparation. You have to understand your own grasping power, how efficiently you can use time. So these
Mhm.
are some factors that you have to judge for yourself, and you have to judge these without any bias.
Right.
And based on that, you have to decide when to prepare. So for me, I had a good foundation, which I realized on just taking up a few questions and solving. I had more than 5 hours to give daily. I had an above average grasping power, and also my time efficiency was average, but that would have been compensated by the extra time I had to give.
Mhm.
So, although I had decided to give CAT 1 year before the exam, but I started preparing seriously around end of March, which gave me around 8 months to prepare.
So that was a really good time to start your preparation, and instead of wasting your time, you that was a really great time to be utilized. So that's great. And personally, I had studied for I think around 4 months. I started my serious preparation in July. But as you can see, if you start earlier, then because I remember talking to her, we were like prep buddies. We used to discuss things. So since she had started earlier, she had already covered the syllabus and she had already taken the initial mocks like the SIMCAT 1 and 2 or the AIMCAT 1 and 2, whereas I was lagging behind. So it's better to start early if you have time. Don't postpone things. So that's what I would add from my side. Then the next question is, how did you manage your time, CAT prep plus your regular college studies?
So as I said that I did have a lot of time to give because the college load wasn't as much as generally people have, especially because of the lockdown. And also in the final year, most of the colleges have a lesser load because the number of credits are lower. So I had a lot of time to give because classes were hardly a few hours in 1 week. I used the rest of the time completely for preparing for CAT.
I see. What is your personal take? Should one go for an internship while preparing for the CAT, or is it better to take subjects in your college? Because you had opted for college, whereas I had opted for internship. So it will be great to know your side of the story.
So I knew that internship is going to take a lot of time, and I knew that I definitely want to do an MBA this year itself. So I knew that I had to give like my everything that I had to CAT preparation. So I decided that I would look for an internship in the next time. So it depends on like what the college is offering. Since our college offered the choice of taking up an internship either in the first sem or the second sem of fourth year, I decided to go with second year and gave all my first sem only to CAT preparation.
I see.
So if I have to like suggest the others that if there is an option, you should try putting the internship after like CAT if you are really serious about going for an MBA.
Yeah, that's true. I'll add a few things from my side. During my interviews, I didn't even mention that I had done a 6 month internship. So it definitely won't hurt you, even if you don't do the internship. So I will agree with her and definitely go for a full time CAT prep. Because college will provide you with more time for CAT preparation, whereas internship, especially if it's an industry internship, you won't get a lot of time for preparation. So yeah, go all in, so that will definitely pay off. Yeah, so this is another commonly asked question, and since it is going to be mock season in a month, like from August everybody starts taking mock seriously. So how many mock test series should we join, and what is the number of mocks that you should attempt? So what were your numbers, and what is an average or ideal number that one should target?
So I had joined two mock series, which was SimCAT and AimCAT. So since I was preparing by myself, I wanted to give more mocks because my preparation schedule really depended on how I'm performing in mocks. So that is why I chose to enroll into two test series. So even in a single test series, there are enough number of mocks. But what happens is people want to try out different levels of difficulties, different patterns, because different coaching classes will have some differences in their papers.
True.
So it's okay to go for two test series also, but that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to give all of the 30 to 40 mocks of each of the series. You can choose, like maybe you can focus on the live mocks because live mocks are more towards what actually will happen in CAT. The take home tests are generally like experimental, so they have a lot of different patterns. That is also important, definitely, but you can choose to give some of those and all of the live mocks. For me, I gave too many mocks in my preparation, which is not really necessary for everyone. I gave, I think, 50 plus mocks, which is not necessary at all.
Yeah.
But the reason I gave those many mocks is because in the first mock I gave, I realized that I'm having issues with time pressure. So I'm not able to perform to the fullest of my potential because of the time pressure that was constantly under on my mind. And that is why I had to give more mocks to come out of that fear and to come out of that pressure. And it really did work for me. So if there is someone who is facing such issues, then they can go for more mocks. Otherwise, I think 20 to 30 mocks are more than sufficient.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Even in the video which I've made in about IIM Indore, link is over here. So I had mentioned that around 25 is a good number, and I think our batch ended up taking more mocks because in August suddenly they changed the paper pattern. So we thought that we need to take more mocks to get accustomed to the new pattern. So that was a reason that everyone took more than 40 mocks. I had taken 40 mocks, but around 25, 20 to 30 is a good number. So as you rightly said, And another thing which she mentioned was that mocks are a tool which help to identify your mistakes and identify where you are going wrong. So, as she said, she had problems with time management. So, analyzing the mocks is as important as taking the mocks. So, I have made a video on that as well. It's about GRE, but you can use these techniques for any exam. Here's the link. Feel free to check it out. So another question which you might be getting from many CAT aspirants is, what were your average mock scores throughout your preparation?
This is a very difficult question to answer. My mock scores fluctuated a lot. So out of 300 that initially I was giving the 3 hour paper. So out of 300, I was scoring between, like, the lowest I scored must have been around 80. The highest I scored was around 160. So that was the range. It is a huge range. So 80 is a really big range. It really depends on, I don't know, maybe the day, maybe the exam questions that come. So it depends on that. And in the 2 hour papers, I don't remember the range because the maximum score that was possible varied a lot. But my average in those mocks was around 110, which I eventually ended up scoring in the final CAT as well.
Right. Where was your percentile usually? In which bracket was it fluctuating?
So my percentile was generally between 95 to 100. 99 plus I scored only in 2 of the 50 mocks. But generally it was, I think, around 95 to 98.
So I think like two takeaways from this are that first one, instead of comparing your mock scores, compare your percentile, because eventually where you stand as compared to the other aspirants matters. And secondly is that even if you don't score 99 percentiles in your mocks, still you can perform well on the actual day if you are like calm and composed and put into practice what you've studied or learned over the past few months. So yeah, this is a question which never came across my mind, but this is a commonly asked question. So should you have any backup plans while you are preparing for CAT? And also, a backup is usually taking a placement from the TPO office of the college. So what is your take on this question?
This is a very subjective question.
Yeah.
It depends on how much risk you are willing to take, how much faith you have in yourself. So a lot of factors. What I had in mind was that I definitely knew that I don't want to get into a technical role after graduation. I either wanted to do an MBA or get into a non-technical role directly. So that is the reason I didn't sit placements. I only focused on CAT and the admission process later on. And what I had in mind, that if at all it doesn't work out, I thought that I'll take up some external placements, or I'll look for job openings externally after CAT is over, like after the process is over. So I had confidence that I'll get some job or the other, even if I don't sit for placements through the college.
Right. Yeah, that's true. I agree. So even if you like don't appear, if you pause your placement activity till CAT, which is usually in November, last Sunday, fourth Sunday of November, you still have the 8th semester or your final semester to take up a job. So don't worry about that. But still, as she said, it's a highly subjective question. Depends on how much risk you're willing to take. Then I think we've already covered this briefly in the previous question about material, but still, can you give any tips for all the three sections, that is quantitative ability, DILR, and BARC?
So BARC, what you have to start with is checking your comprehension skills. In the beginning of your prep, just focus on reading articles, summarizing them, understanding the author's point of view, what is the main point of the passage, and all these elements that eventually help you answer the questions that are given in the RCs. And as you move ahead, you have to focus on the elimination techniques for choosing the right option eventually. That is because in the end, what's going to give you marks is choosing the right answer and not what you're being able to comprehend. But that is definitely a prerequisite to getting to the right answer.
True.
So you have to go in the steps that I have mentioned, because if you just directly go to trying to get the right answer, it's not going to work. For DILR, the main thing to be able to get a good score is to solve in a structured manner. That is the most important thing, and that is the only thing that stops people from getting the right answer in DILR. if you know that if you're given a set, you have to understand the set, you have to understand what is the first step you have to take, and then you go on and move ahead to the like the next step. You can't just expect to get the final answer directly, because that is not how it's gonna look like.
Right.
So a structured solving method will help you get a good score in DILR. People do like suggest that you can try some puzzles, solving some puzzles, just to keep your mind agile. So
Sudokus
that is
especially.
something. Yes, definitely. And I did enjoy solving Sudoku
Yeah.
since many years, so
Yeah.
I did continue that practice even during my prep. Other than that, for quant, the main focus should be on clearing out the basic concepts, and you have to find out the most efficient method of solving, because in quant there will be hundreds of ways of solving just one question, and what in the end matters in cat is how fast you solve them.
True.
Because it is also a test of speed and not just your concepts.
Right.
So for quant, that is a very helpful way to try solving every question in multiple ways and finding the most efficient one out of those.
Yeah, that was great. Like we covered the tips for all the three sections, and since I've already been through the process, these tips were very relatable. So they'll definitely be helpful for all the aspirants. So she mentioned some really great tips for RCs, that comprehending the passage is more important. So some of the tips which I learned from CAT 100 percentilers really helped me a lot to personally improve my RC skills. So I have made a detailed video on that as well. So you can check it out over here. And these skills can be helpful for any exam, be it CAT, SNAP, SAT, GMAT, GRE, any competitive exam where you'll encounter RCs. So feel free to check it out over here. So now I think we've covered all the questions regarding the CAT prep. So moving on, another question which is commonly encountered is how to build a profile for MBA. So what are your tips on that?
So there are many ways of building a profile, but it depends on when you are asking this question. If you are just like 1 year before giving CAT, you are asking this, then anything you do, it's not going to matter that much. Because if you focus too much on extracurriculars and not on CAT preparation, then you might not even end up getting a call. So then all your extracurriculars will not really be relevant in that sense. But if you are an aspirant who is looking for giving CAT a few years down the line, then you can do anything, whatever you like, just do it, give more time to that. Try participating in some national level or state level competitions or whatever conferences or anything that is relevant to your hobbies. You can take up some positions of responsibilities in your college, because that also helps you not only showcase your skills on the CV but also build your skills that you might require during the management school. Other than that, you can also look for, if you're interested in doing some social work, become a part of some NGO. And yeah, those are some of the things that can be done to build a profile.
Yeah.
And other than that, even when you're doing all these, don't forget that academics are a very important part, and those cannot be done away even if you have great extracurriculars.
True. Especially in the Indian scenario, because 30 to 40% weightage is given to your past acads, like 10th, 12th, as well as graduation. So neglecting that will definitely like hurt you. So as Jitendra Khilnani, NYU Stern MBA admit recently mentioned, you can definitely discount the last 8 to 10 months of profile building that you do, because even the B schools know that everyone will be doing it. So what will set you apart from the other candidates is that what you've done before that. So it's definitely a good thing to start as early as possible. So if you're in your first year, and if you are remotely thinking about pursuing an MBA, then definitely start taking the steps which she mentioned, like extracurriculars or social work. That will definitely pay off, even if you don't end up pursuing an MBA, because these will help you to build some skills which will come in handy anywhere. So that was a great answer. And one more question, a follow-up question, is that many students who do not participate in extracurricular activities during their college years, so what can they do to build their profiles for MBA?
So even this question, like the answer will be similar to earlier, because if you are at least a couple of years before giving CAT at this stage, then you can maybe look into some courses related to management if you're really like looking forward to pursue an MBA. You can do some certifications. There are like for each specialization there'll be a different kind of specialization that will really give weightage to your profile. For example, for finance there is the exams like CFA, FRM, which really have a lot of value, and not only value but they also give you that knowledge that is required, and it really will help you further in your MBA as well. And similarly for other specializations also there are exams like that, or even some general courses can be done. Not necessarily that these will come in handy while you're like giving your interviews or anything, but you can just do it for yourself and for your building your skills and
Yeah.
yeah,
Or
building
gauging your
your
interest in that domain.
right.
So by the time we take the CAT exam, we are already in our final year or we are doing a job. So what kind of internship or job experiences come in handy during an MBA? And is it necessary to do only management related jobs, or is it fine if you get a technical internship or a job as well, especially for engineers?
So any kind of experience works, because what they are going to teach us in an MBA is the non-technical part. So even if you are in a technical job or have a technical internship, you will be knowing the culture of a workplace and what goes on in the various profiles of the jobs, and that will help you connect better when you are pursuing an MBA. Because from what I have heard, although I haven't experienced it yet, that all these case studies that they teach us in class are based on some real life examples. So if you've been through that journey, then it will be easier for you to relate to that. So as a fresher, I might not be able to relate to it, because an internship is a very short duration stint, and it doesn't really give you that much in-depth experience of what a workplace is like and what all happens in an organization. So in such a case, technical or non-technical is irrelevant. Anything will help you some way or the other.
Mhm. That makes sense. So, like, basically, grab the opportunity which comes your way. Don't let it go.
Totally.
During the interviews, do they ask about these internship experiences and the core subjects which you have studied during your graduation? So, if you're an engineer, will they ask you questions about technical subjects? Or if you are a lawyer, will they ask you whatever you've studied in law? What has been your experience about this?
So my all my interviews were extremely different from each other. Some were completely based on my hobbies, some were completely based on general awareness, some on my undergraduation field. So in any case, you have to be prepared with all of them. In two of my interviews, I was asked about my undergraduate core subjects, and there were like 3 4 questions on some subjects like being a computer engineer. I had questions on basic data structures or basic algorithms. So what they're basically trying to understand is with how much dedication you do whatever you're doing.
Mhm.
So you that is why they test you on your core subjects, because otherwise they have nothing to gain from you knowing about your core subjects or not, because MBA in an MBA that's not going to be useful.
True.
But they're trying to see how dedicated are you.
Yeah, that's true. So two things which are takeaways is that first of all, the academic subject related questions show your dedication about how seriously you do the things which you are supposed to do, and secondly, you should do some research about the college where you will be appearing for the interview. Like some colleges, like IIM Indore, are very academic heavy. They will ask you a lot of questions about academics. Or some of the colleges such as SIBM or IIM Bangalore or even XLRI, they will ask questions based on only extracurriculars. So you should research about the college. And to share my personal experience, my XLRI interview was completely based on ethics, nothing apart from that. So your interview can be taken in any direction, I think, depending upon the introduction which you give. So I think your introduction should be strong and you should be aware of all the things which you mentioned in your introduction. And so that brings me to my next question and the final question for this video. So, any interview preparation tips from your side?
So all all the interviews, like if you have to put them in under an umbrella, the basic points that will be covered is your academics, your hobbies, your extracurriculars, and questions about your personal life or personal values. So these are the things you have to go through. Some things like academics, you have to revise them. You have to go back to whatever you had learned. When it comes to personal questions, it is something you have to understand by introspecting yourself, that what all you have done in your life, what really are your own values, how you react to situations, and why you do the things you do. So basically, just know yourself, because those are the questions that you can't really get stuck on, because they are about yourself. And if you are not self aware, then it's really difficult to be successful in any field. So that is something they'll definitely expect from me.
Yeah, so that was a really helpful answer, I think. And as she mentioned, you should definitely know why you're doing something, because in the interview, you can't just mention like you felt like doing it. There has to be a reason, and that's what I felt personally as well. You need to find the answers to these questions and try to give your answers in the form of stories, and it will really help you. And once you clear your CAT exam, definitely we'll invite Neha again to share tips specifically related to interviews, and maybe how has her experience at IIM Indore been so far, because she'll have spent around 2 terms over there. So if you want that video, then please comment down below and we'll invite her again. And thank you very much, Neha, for sharing your valuable time and answering these most asked questions about CAT. I'm sure that your answers will definitely help all the CAT aspirants, and I'll wish all the CAT aspirants all the very best. Any concluding words which you'd like to say?
Thank you, Sarvesh, for having me here. For all the CAT aspirants, I would just say that take a deep breath and just go with the flow, and just give it your best, and work on the things that are in your control, and leave the rest up to your hard work.
Yeah, there you heard it. So just keep working hard and eventually you'll achieve your goals. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and hit that like button if you enjoyed this video. And thank you very much for watching. See you all in the next one. Bye bye.